My name is Wendy Wesley, and I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist here in St. Pete, Florida. And I'm with Insight Wellness Works, and I do these cooking demonstrations. I think we're doing them monthly, and I absolutely love doing them. And today I'm going to make one of my favorite easy weeknight suppers or dinners. It's called Thai peanut butter stir fry. And I used to work at St. Anthony's Hospital, and there's a woman named Chu who manages the gift shop at St. Anthony's Hospital, and she is from Thailand, and she shared this recipe with me years ago. And I learned all the mistakes I'd been making with a stir fry from Chu. She taught me how I kept messing it up because I just couldn't get it to where I wanted it. And she just showed me a couple of things I was doing wrong. And that's what I'm going to share with you is I'm going to kind of go through, I'm going to cook it right in front of you. And I'm going to talk about all the ways I was doing it wrong. I'm going to show you how simple this recipe is. I love this recipe because it only uses a cup of rice. So really, if 3 people eat this, or even 4 people, if you use a lot of vegetables, it's not a big carbohydrate load because everybody would have about a 1/4 cup of rice, which is about 1 serving of rice. It's actually smaller than a serving of rice. I'd say that's about 10 grams of carbohydrate. So if the rest of the things you're using in the recipe are non-starchy vegetables, and that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to use peppers. They're a non-starchy vegetable, meaning that the carbohydrates in peppers are very, very low compared to the carbohydrates in corn or in peas or in potatoes. Those vegetables, nothing wrong with them, but those are considered starchy vegetables and they have higher amounts of carbohydrate. Also, I'm going to put onions in here. Onions are another one of those non-starchy vegetables. They have very, very little sugar, although if you cook them very, very slowly, also known as caramelizing, they will release their natural sugars and they'll become very beautiful and mellow if you cook them very, very slowly. I'm sure some of you know about caramelizing onions, especially if you're going to make like a French onion soup. You want to caramelize or cook very, very slowly over a low heat to get them nice and brown and kind of sugary and sticky. And then I'm going to put carrots in this. Now, I consider the carrots to be non-starchy, although a lot of people say, but what about all the sugar in carrots? And I actually like to add carrots to my spaghetti sauce. I know that sounds weird, but they do have some sugar, and as they cook, they will kind of release their own sugar. And the other nice thing about carrots is they make my spaghetti sauce very, very kind of sticky. So I find that when I put carrots in it, it sticks better to the noodles, and that's just a natural sugar. These are still a very, very low carbohydrate food. For instance, the serving size here is, what is the serving size? So 3 ounces, so about what can fit in your hand. That's about 3 ounces. Excuse me, that's an ounce. So what can fit in your hand times 3, or about a 1/2 cup, is the carbohydrates in it are pretty low. It's only 8 carbohydrates. It's not that much. So don't worry about carrots. People say, oh, I got to stay away from fruits and vegetables like carrots and apples and things that have sugar. I always say, don't worry about the carbohydrates in food that are bound in fiber. A cardiologist said one thing to me that was the most important thing I'd ever heard, and before or since, regarding nutrition. She said to me, all of your carbohydrates should be bound in fiber. So this is a carbohydrate bound in fiber, okay? All the fruit you see behind me, the pepper, the peach, the tomato, the banana. I don't know if you can see my fruit bowl, but all of that fruit, yes, there is sugar in the fruit, but it's all bound in fiber. And so this will raise your blood sugar nice and slow and then bring you down nice and slow. Compared to, for instance, orange juice is a carbohydrate that is not bound in fiber. Apple juice, and then pretzels, Twinkies, cookies, Ho-Hos, pita chips, things like that. These are carbohydrates that are not bound in fiber. So if you can just say, is my carbohydrate bound in fiber? Then I would say all day that is a green light food. I want you to be careful of carbohydrates that are not bound in fiber, and those are typically highly processed foods. So I do have some carbohydrates in the carrots, no big deal. Very, very little, if none, in the peppers and onions. I do have some carbohydrates in the peanut butter. There is some added sugar, but like I talked about a few minutes ago, you can choose a peanut butter that is from the Publix deli. It just says natural peanut butter. It comes in a plastic tub, you know, about this big, and it is 2 ingredients. It's peanuts and it's salt, and they make it somewhere like a Publix deli manager told me there's a facility where Publix makes peanut butter all day long. They roast the peanuts, they grind them up, they package it, and they send it out to all their stores. So that's a way to reduce some added sugar. But this is a very, very high fiber, low carbohydrate, high nutrient dinner. You can make it vegan by omitting the eggs and omitting any of the meat. You can make it vegetarian by omitting the meat. What I'm going to make today is I'm going to make the full meal with eggs. I'm going to use shrimp instead of chicken. And I don't have any cabbage, so I substituted green peppers for the cabbage. You can also do broccoli florets. You can do snow peas. You can do all kinds of things in this recipe. It really is kind of one of those, you clean out the refrigerator and see what's in there, what's going bad, and throw it all in the pan. So I'm going to turn on this is my hot plate here in front of me. The first thing I'm going to do is get some oil, get the pan going. Now, before I turned on the Zoom, I got some rice cooking. This is just jasmine rice, and simple jasmine rice, and I'm going to use a cup of it in this recipe. So it took me, this is going to sound strange, it took me a while to figure out how to cook rice. I messed up a lot of pans of rice. I wasn't doing something right, and I wasn't able to get it soft. It always was kind of crunchy in the middle, and I just kept experimenting with different pans and different burners on my stove. And so I have figured out the best burner and the best pan to make rice, and this is my rice pan. I make all my grains in this pan. It never fails me, but it did take me a while to figure out what is my rice pan and what is my method for cooking rice. Boil the water, put the rice in. It's always a 2-to-1 ratio. So 2 cups of water, 1 cup of rice. Boil the water, put the rice in, and then put that lid on, back on that simmer burner for 20 minutes. Comes out perfect every single time. Now, your burner may be a little hotter or not as hot. You may need just a little bit more time, but each stove can kind of be its own animal. So experiment with what it takes to make that perfect pan of rice. Okay, this is heating up. I have all my ingredients in front of me. This is one of those dishes where I have found that it pays to do all the prep in advance because things come together pretty quickly with this dish. I've made the mistake of like I'm still chopping while I'm cooking, and that's can be a kind of a recipe for disaster. While this is heating up, I do want to prepare my garlic. I am using fresh garlic. I try and use fresh garlic. In fact, at this time, I don't have any jarred garlic in my house, but if you do, it's not the end of the world. You just want to use more of it. If you're using jarred garlic, you want to definitely use more of it because it will be less potent than fresh garlic. I have 3 cloves here. You may notice this guy is sprouting. Not to worry. I'm going to use the sprout. What onions and garlic sprout is completely edible. It's completely edible. So don't let that be scare you. If your onions and garlic start to sprout, it's not any big deal. Okay, this is getting warm. What I do, if you notice this clove, this is a clove of garlic, and the cloves come on a bulb. So the big thing that you buy in the grocery store is called the bulb. Here, I have one right here. So this is the bulb, and then this is the clove. And what I do to get this little paper on the outside of the clove is I always smash it underneath my knife. And I just give it a quick smash underneath my knife, and then that papery outside on that garlic will come right off, just like that. So I give it a smash under the blade of my knife, and you see how this paper just kind of falls right off. That's one of my favorite little tricks, because peeling garlic can be kind of a boring pain in the you-know-what kind of a task. I do use a garlic press. I'm not one for gadgets in the kitchen, but this is one gadget that I like. You don't have to use a garlic press. You can just chop it with your knife. No big deal. Okay, so this is getting warm now. I'm going to add this oil. This is just olive oil. I'm just going to do 1 tablespoon, and this is what I'm going to do is cook the eggs. Right now I've got 3 eggs. I'm just going to soft scramble them. The reason I'm going to soft scramble them is because when I put them back into the pan with all of the rice and the vegetables, it'll continue to cook, and I don't want them to be hard. So I'm going to do a soft scramble. So 1 tablespoon of oil, and when I turn this upside down and I count 1 second, it's 1 tablespoon. So 1, that's a tablespoon. This way, these little tricks help me move faster in the kitchen. This way I don't have to dirty a measuring spoon that I later have to wash and then put away. I'm always trying to, how can I do fewer dishes? And that's one of my tricks, is just 1. I will do the same thing when I add the vinegar, and when I add the soy, you'll notice I'll just turn it upside down and go 1, and that's about a tablespoon. So let's see. I'm getting the oil going in the bottom of my pan. This is a non-stick pan that's kind of rounded with high sides. I really like this pan. I don't own a wok or a wok, but I do use this for my stir fries. I know the oil is nice and hot when it runs fast across the bottom of the pan, and it's kind of moving sort of fast, so I want to get it just a little bit hotter. I have cracked my 3 eggs into this little bowl, and I did add a little bit of salt. And I'm going to add them, let's see, I'm going to add them right now. So before my friend Chu from the gift shop at St. Anthony's taught me how to make this stir fry, I was just kind of putting everything in the pan and cooking it kind of all at once, and that was not good because things have different cooking times. Things have different temperatures for cooking times, and so I'm just going to scramble up these eggs. After they're done, I'm going to remove them and put them on this plate right in front of me here to rest. And then next, what I'll do is just a little bit more oil, and I will cook the shrimp. Just trying to get my hot plate up to temp. Oh yeah, the eggs are starting to cook now. What I do is I'm moving them kind of back and forth to make them kind of thin in places so that they will cook evenly. Come on, hot plate. All right, let me continue with my garlic. So I put this clove of garlic into the press, and I'm going to press down. And see, look at all that gorgeous garlic that just came out. That's 1 clove. And with my knife, with the tip of my knife, I shave it off. I'm just going to shave it onto my cutting board. We'll use that in a minute. So here we go. 1 more clove of garlic. The paper already fell off of it. And this has the little sprout. Going to keep the sprout. Just there's a little dead part on the top. Cut it off. And I'm going to put both into the press and press down. And that is 2 cloves of garlic. This is going to be a very, very garlicky dish. And then 3 cloves of garlic. You certainly do not have to use 3 cloves if you don't want to. I just love garlic, so I go ahead and I use it. Okay, how are my eggs doing? Okay, they are scrambling up nicely. So taking the papery peel off of this garlic, 3rd clove of garlic goes into the press. And there I go. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Okay. And then shave off. And so that is 3. Oh my God. If you could smell that, that is very, very intense garlic. Okay. So how are my eggs doing here? All right. They are cooking up nicely. Oh, and I did add a little bit of salt. I try and salt at every layer of cooking. Very, very lightly, nothing very, very heavy, but I do like to give these eggs just a little bit of boost with a little bit of salt. Okay. All right. I am going to say these eggs are done. This is a very, very soft scrambled egg. You can kind of see how they're still kind of wet. That's a soft scrambled egg. And I'm going to place them here for later. Because like I said, when I add them back to the recipe, to everything else that's cooking, they will continue to cook. So I don't want them to be a hard scramble. I want them to be kind of a soft scramble. Okay. Next, pan back on. Another tablespoon of oil. Let's get that hot. And I have my shrimp. Now, let me drain that a little bit more. I don't want to put the water in there from the shrimp. So I have, I don't know how many, 12, I don't know, 10 or 12 kind of medium shrimp. Like I said, you can do a vegan meal and omit the eggs and the shrimp and the meat all together. You can just do vegetarian and just do egg. You can use chicken. You can use pork. You can use beef. Anything really kind of works in this recipe. That's why I love this recipe, is because the flavors in it are so bold. The peanut butter is bold. The garlic is definitely bold. You'll see our soy sauce is very, very bold. The vinegar is very, very bold. And so everything gets coated with the sauce that we're going to make. That's the final step. And it just, everything has a very, very powerful flavor. And so almost anything works here. So I'm going to put the shrimp in here to cook up. Okay. Now, seafood, fish, shrimp, all of it is, the key to cooking it is to not overcook it. These foods, shrimp and fish, cook very, very quickly. It is really, really easy to overcook fish and then it gets tough and rubbery. Same with shrimp. It's very, very easy to overcook shrimp. I usually, I wouldn't say undercook shrimp, but I take it out before I think it's done, because it will continue to cook. When I take it out and I put it on this plate where the eggs are, it will continue to cook. Now they are turning pink. They went in kind of gray, white, translucent, and they are turning pink. I'm just not getting my hot plate hot enough. I'm going to grab my tongs and flip them so they will cook on the other side. Remember not to overcook, because they will continue cooking when they are sitting on the plate. They cook very fast. All seafood cooks so quickly. And when I put them back into the dish, you'll see at the end, they will also benefit from the heat that's in the pan, and they will continue cooking. So do not overcook these guys. That's why, again, this is a great meal for the weeknight, because everything cooks up pretty quick. Okay. So I've turned every single one of these shrimp over, and they are cooking. Just maybe one more minute, but they have turned pink, and you see how fast that happened. Yeah, I'm going to take these out. I don't want to overdo them. So you see how nice and pink they are? I'm going to take them out and then put them on the plate. Now this is the plate where I have my eggs. One thing I am going to do, you see I have my eggs and I have my shrimp here. One thing I am going to do is take a kitchen towel and just drape it loosely over it. And that's just to retain the heat of the shrimp and the eggs so they don't go back in the pan cold. So little kitchen towel over it kind of helps retain the heat. You can also use a lid. You can also put a lid over it and help retain the heat. So good. I think I've got my pan nice and hot. Again, I'm going to do 1.5 tablespoons of oil, because I do have a lot of vegetables to kind of move around. What I'm going to cook now are the green peppers and the onions. and the carrots, and I will add the garlic last, because garlic, when the pan is very, very hot, has a tendency to scorch and then it kind of gets bitter. So I always add my garlic last. So let's see, 1, 2, I did 2. I did 2 tablespoons because I do have a lot of vegetables. Again, frozen broccoli works great here. Like sugar snap peas, snow peas works great here. I'm going to get my peppers going in this pan. Okay, you can hear them sizzling, hopefully. I'm going to use about a cup of the shredded carrots, which is about a handful. Again, learning to eyeball food so you don't have to dirty measuring cups. You're not looking for measuring cups, just kind of learning to eyeball foods, especially with savory foods. Now, if you're a baker, you know there is no eyeballing when you are baking. There is no eyeballing when you're baking, because baking is chemistry, and chemistry requires very, very specific measurements of food and ingredients. So you have to be very, very careful when you are baking. But when it comes to these savory foods like stir fries and other things, I'm really somebody who kind of cooks intuitively and kind of makes it up. But I know that people like recipes, so I did put exact measurements on the recipes. I'm going to add these onions now, get them going. So what I have is carrots, green peppers, onions. I'm going to add the garlic last. Now, when I used to make this the wrong way, I wouldn't do things in steps. I would throw the vegetables in at the same time as the seafood or the chicken. And so that seafood and chicken would cook, and it would get tough and rubbery because it takes more time to cook down these vegetables, these non-starchy vegetables, than it does to cook that shrimp. You'll see I will cook these for a much longer period of time. That's a mistake I used to make. Another mistake I used to make is I didn't take everything out to make my sauce. So you'll see I'm gonna, when these are all nice and cooked down and soft, I will remove them to this plate, and then I will make the sauce. And so that's what my friend Chu taught me, was that I had to do everything in steps. And it's fun when you can you get a method. I would call this a method of cooking. It is, I start with a recipe, but then over time I kind of make it my own, and I include some variations. And I have made this with quinoa instead of rice as the starch, and that comes out great too. So once you learn kind of the method for a basic stir fry, you can experiment with all different kinds of grains, all different kinds of vegetables. You can even experiment with different kinds of spices and sauces. Like today, I'm going to add some ginger, some ground ginger, because I discovered that I really liked the ginger. And I just forgot, it's not on the recipe, but I may add some sriracha. Let me pull that out of my fridge. This is Thai hot sauce, and I'm just going to add a little bit to the sauce just to give it like a little bit of punch. I'm making this for my son. We'll probably have this for lunch, and I know he likes spicy food, so I'm going to add a little bit of the sriracha. Okay, so these are cooking down. They will take a bit, and if you are making a weeknight dinner at this point, you check your email or or pet the dog or catch up with your family while these are cooking down. When I teach nutrition classes, especially for diabetes, or if I'm teaching people, helping people lose weight, I'm always talking about the importance of fiber. And we tend to, as a country, we tend to be too focused on protein, and we tend to not be focused enough on fiber. And I'm always trying to encourage people to get more fiber into their diets. As a rule, where you find plants, pretty much, you will find fiber. There is fiber found in every single plant. So the more plants you can eat, and there are incredible protein sources of plants out there in the form of nuts and seeds and beans and legumes. And all of your protein needs can be met on plants only. Now, I am not a vegetarian or a vegan, but as I get older, I'm always looking to eat more plants, more color, more fiber. And this is for, I don't have diabetes, but I don't want to develop diabetes. It's also for my cardiovascular health. I'm 50 years old, and I know that as I age, cardiovascular disease for me, a woman of 50 years old, increases. And so one way I'm trying to keep my cholesterol nice and low is by eating very, very high fiber, high color plants at every single meal. And this means if I'm scrambling eggs in the morning, I'm thinking, okay, do I have some green peppers or tomatoes or mushrooms that I can scramble in with those eggs? How can I get more vegetables always into every meal? Should I add a salad to this? Sometimes I love to make a tuna fish and eat it with crackers, and I bulk it up with onions, with peppers. I bulk it up with carrots. I bulk it up with sunflower seeds, even apples. I even put apples in the tuna fish and the chicken salad. So I'm always trying to bulk up everything I do with more high fiber, high color plant foods. And this is for cardiovascular health. The other thing it's good for is it helps keep you full for a long time. And the idea is if you're not going around hungry and always kind of chasing sugar, if you've had high fiber foods, high color foods, vegetables, then hunger, you can kind of stave off hunger until your next meal, and you won't be tempted to go into the break room, or you won't be tempted to come into the kitchen and grab a sugary snack if you've included fiber in your meals all along the way. So I can't say enough about fiber. I feel like that's all I talk about is fiber, fiber, fiber. People are always saying, what about protein? What about protein? And I'm like, no, I really think that I really want you to focus on how can you get more fiber into your diet, more color, more plants. I think the finest food on the planet is a bean, hands down. Hands down, the finest food on the planet is a bean. It is the cheapest source of protein in your grocery store, full stop. There is no cheaper way to have protein, to buy protein in your grocery store than with beans. I love to make a black bean soup. I put beans in tacos. I'm always trying to sneak beans into soups. I mean, every time I'm like, how can I add some beans to this? How can I eat more beans? Hummus is a great food. It's a great dip. It's made with chickpeas. You can also make your hummus with great northern beans. Make a great bean dip with black beans and have it with tortilla chips. Just always think, how can I get more beans into my diet? I'm also a big fan of nuts and seeds. Peanuts, walnuts, almonds, mix that with some dried fruit like raisins and mix it with pumpkin seeds or sunflower seeds. And all of these foods are available bulk in the produce department of Publix and other major grocery stores. And I recommend that you get a variety and snack on those. The fat in them, the protein in them, and the fiber in them, plus not to mention just the minerals, antioxidants, and vitamins found in nuts and seeds will keep you full for a long time. I recommend you snack on nuts and seeds before you grab a protein bar, before you grab a granola bar, before you grab something that comes in. Don't grab something that comes in a package or a piece of foil or a piece of plastic, you know. Kind bars and other brands like that. I mean, they're not bad, but they have fantastic marketing. I'll tell you who doesn't have marketing is poor old peanuts and raisins. They don't have very good marketing, but I'd rather you snack on peanuts, raisins, walnuts, things like that than grabbing a Kind bar or a protein bar, because a lot of those can be very, very low fiber, and they can also have a lot of added sugar. So this is getting nice and kind of mushy. And at this point, I'm going to add this garlic. Oops. Okay. That's 3 cloves of garlic. Like I said, I added it last because I don't want it to scorch. I want it to stay nice, and I want it to cook, of course, but I want it to stay nice and fragrant. I don't want it to scorch. I can't tell you the amount of garlic I've burned in my lifetime. You'd think I would have learned by now to be careful with the garlic, but I think I finally trained myself to not scorch or burn my garlic because it will get bitter. That smells just beautiful. Okay, we're going to cook that for just a little bit longer. Plus, when I put the garlic in last, the heat, a lot of the vegetables, the heat from the pan is already in the vegetables. And so I'm not putting the garlic directly on the bottom of the pan. That's the mistake I used to make, is putting the garlic directly on the bottom of the pan, and that would scorch it. But these, now it's mixed in nicely with the vegetables, and that'll kind of keep that direct heat off of those, off of that garlic. Okay, so this is looking good. Things are getting cooked. And I want to show this to you. These are green peppers, onions, garlic, and carrots. Again, you can use broccoli florets, sugar snap peas, snow peas, anything like that. It all, okay, and cabbage, of course. This recipe originally calls for cabbage. I didn't have any, so I went ahead and used green peppers, but cabbage works beautifully in this dish. So red cabbage, green cabbage, the soft Napa cabbage, it all works great in this dish. So I took it off the heat, and what I'm going to do is add it to this plate. You can't really see, but there's a plate here, and that's where my cooked shrimp and my cooked scrambled eggs are. They are resting underneath the towel. And everybody together is all happy. So you see I have shrimp, I have eggs, and I have vegetables all on this plate. You see the steam coming off. Again, I'm going to cover with the kitchen towel to keep things nice and warm while I make my sauce. Okay, here we go. Back on the burner, going to add some oil. Again, 1 tablespoon of oil. Okay, get that going around. Now this is half a cup of peanut butter. This is regular peanut butter with sugar added, nothing fancy. You can use creamy peanut butter, you can use crunchy peanut butter, doesn't matter. Or if you want to reduce that added sugar, you can use that Publix natural peanut butter that I was talking about. Up to you. So I'm going to, this is half cup of peanut butter. I'm going to put this into the pan. And as this peanut butter cooks, I don't know if you, the first time I cooked peanut butter, I said, oh, wow, it gets really kind of liquidy. As you heat it up, it gets nice and soft and liquidy. And that is what's happening here. Okay. All right. There is half a cup of peanut butter. Swirling around. Cooking up. Now, while that's heating, I'm going to prepare my toppings. So the toppings for this, I like cilantro. Not everybody does. Some people don't like it. For instance, my son hates cilantro, hates it, hates it, hates it. And he says that for him, cilantro tastes soapy, but for me, cilantro tastes nice and fresh. So some people absolutely hate it. My son hates it. Tastes like a bar of soap to him, but I think it tastes awesome and fresh. So I'm going to cut some cilantro, and I'll put the cilantro on mine. I'll keep it off of his. This is not going to get cooked. This will just be a topping. Okay. Chopping some cilantro. Okay. Also, another fantastic topping for this is green onions. So I'm going to quickly chop some green onions. I have a pot out off my kitchen door where I take these and I put them in the pot. I just shove them in the dirt, and then they will regrow green. Oops. They will regrow green onions, and I'll just step out the door, out my kitchen door with a pair of scissors and just snip, snip, snip. And they just never stop growing. It's just amazing. Okay, quickly chopping some of these green onions for the topping. Again, these green onions, this cilantro adds more fiber to this dish. More fiber. How can we get more fiber into every single meal that we eat? The other amazing benefit of fiber is, and I wouldn't be a dietitian if I didn't talk about it, is its benefits for GI health. 3 things will keep your GI moving, daily bowel movements. They are fiber, liquid, drinking lots of liquid, staying hydrated, especially during these very hot months, and then movement. So those 3 things keep your GI going. So fiber, high fiber foods, great hydration, and move your body, and hopefully you will have very, very healthy GI. Your GI will be very, very healthy. Continue to move. When things aren't moving, that's when there is a problem. I have worked at St. Anthony's Hospital for many years, and I've seen a lot of older people with kind of failing GIs. And as we get older, our GI does slow down. That's why we have so much constipation with older people. So these three things keep it moving. I do see something in the chat. Oh, wow. There's 3 questions in the chat. What do we have? Do you thaw the yes. The question is, do you thaw the frozen vegetables before you cook them? Oh, yeah. What a good question. Absolutely. Because if you throw frozen vegetables in here, that's going to bring you're going to bring the temperature of the entire system. And this is a system. Everything in here is a system. If you put frozen in here, it just brings the entire system to a ground halt. Just all the energy sucks out of the system because you're putting very, very cold food in here. Okay, this is starting to get a little warm. Okay, this is rice wine vinegar, and I'm just going to add 1 tablespoon. Again, 1. That's about a tablespoon. I'm going to add a tablespoon of soy sauce. Give that a shake. And ready, and 1. That's about 1 tablespoon. The recipe does call for sugar. I do have the sugar out. I may not add it because I know there is sugar in my peanut butter. Okay, so I have my sauce going. I want to show this to you. This is my peanut butter, and this is my soy sauce, and this is my vinegar. I am going to add some ginger. I do like ginger in this recipe. And I'm going to add some sriracha. All right, just a squirt of sriracha. That's probably a teaspoon. Next, this is my rice. This is jasmine rice. Pre-cooked jasmine rice. Add the rice to it. That's a cup of cooked rice. Mixing all around. Now, if this starts to look a little thick, and it does, you can absolutely add water, or you can add more vinegar. I may do a little bit of both. I'm going to add some more water, maybe about a 1/4 cup. And I'm going to add some more vinegar because I like that flavor in this. A little more vinegar because it was looking a little thick. All right. So stirring everything up. Let me see what the question in the chat was. Can you eat too much fiber? No, you can't. The question is, can you eat too much fiber? Well, okay, let me back up. I did have a patient at the hospital, and he really, really overdid the breakfast cereal. I mean, he was eating just a ton of this like Fiber One breakfast cereal. And he did come in with, he was full. He was full, and we had to give him some, what do you call those things you use to make yourself go to the bathroom? Laxatives. We had to give him laxatives to get things moving. So you actually can, but he was really, really overdoing it. Okay. So now I've got my rice going, and I'm going to add vegetables, eggs, and shrimp all back into the pan. Vegetables, eggs, and shrimp all back into the pan. And I am cooking this up. This is looking nice. If you can see, got everything in here. Okay. And I'm just going to let this sit here and cook for a little bit. Get everything nice and hot and heated through. I am going to taste it to see if there's something I should add. I'm going to taste the rice portion of this with a little bit of vegetable. That's good. That is good. Maybe just finish off a little bit more water. A little bit more vinegar. The reason I'm doing water and vinegar is because they do not contain salt. I'm trying not to add more salt to the dish. That's why I'm not adding more soy sauce. Instead, I'm opting for the vinegar and the water. And it's just to make my sauce just a little bit, just to make it go a little bit further. Okay, this burner is tough. It either gets really, really super hot or it doesn't get hot enough. Any more questions? Let's see. Can you eat too much fiber? That they already answered that question. No. Like I said, most Americans are not eating enough fiber, hands down. We're just not eating enough fiber. And we need to figure out ways to get more of it into our diet. I'm looking for some chopsticks here. I like to eat this dish here. I like to eat this dish with chopsticks. I also find when I eat with chopsticks, I eat so much more slowly, and I don't, shove it in. And I just tend to enjoy the meal better. That's another little trick, is if you are eating something, see if you can eat with chopsticks. You will eat much more slowly. And then when you're hungry, when you're full, that message will come, because it does take a little while for that message to go from the stomach to the brain that we are getting kind of full. So maybe we ought to, back it down a little bit. It does take a little while. So if you eat with chopsticks, you'll go much slower. Now this is, I have a couple of these big bowls. I use them for stir fry and rice dishes and soups and things. So this is my favorite stir fry bowl. Okay, well, that is getting all nice and hot. And I'm going to serve some in the bowl. Okay. And then I'm going to top it with my cilantro. I do love cilantro. Top it with my green onion. And then I'm going to chop it with, I'm going to chop some peanuts. These are just regular dry roasted planters salted peanuts, and I'm going to chop some, and I'm going to put them on top. And what that does is it gives it this nice crunch, this varied texture, which I really, really like. This is just maybe a handful of peanuts. And with my knife, I'm just going to chop them up and throw them on top of my stir fry.
Do you ever use Bragg's amino acids instead of the soy sauce?
No, I haven't used any of that. Tell me why is it because of gluten sensitivity?
I think it has less salt.
Oh, interesting. No, I didn't know about that. I
like to use it on top of a salad. You can get a little spray bottle, and I enjoy the flavor. And I was thinking you could substitute that for in the sauce.
I will definitely have to give that a try, because soy sauce is just, it's the saltiest thing in the refrigerator, hands down. There is nothing saltier in the refrigerator than soy sauce. You are right. That's why I tried to be very, very sparing with it, because I didn't want this dish to be too salty. So putting a few chopped peanuts on top, and then I have my chopsticks, and I want to show it to you. Here it is. There's lunch, or a quick dinner. I don't know if I would make this necessarily for lunch, but I would definitely do this for a quick dinner. Does anyone, I'm going to turn the volume up because it was kind of light. Does anyone have something similar like this they make at home, or a variation? I'm just curious. Oh, one other thing you can use if you don't want to use rice is, I know this is weird. I'm gonna grab this out of my pantry. Don't judge me, but it works. Where is it? Oh, okay. Ramen noodles. Now, don't use the packet. Don't use the flavor packet, just use the noodles. And then one package of these as the base for this is pretty good. And they cook up nice and quick. The other thing that my friend Chu at St. Anthony's taught me was to use rice noodles. They require no cooking. All you do is you take the rice noodles and you put them in a bowl of water, and then they just absorb the water, and then you're done. And so rice noodles are also a fantastic base for this dish. You can use brown rice. You can, what I used was basmati rice. You can use jasmine rice, or you can use a package of these. I know, but you could use a package of these noodles as the base. Just don't use that flavor packet, because that's probably the second saltiest thing in the kitchen. It's the flavor packet that comes in one of these. So just use the noodles, cook them up, drain them. They'll make a great base for this. The goal here is to try and load this thing up with as many vegetables as possible. You want this to be a very, very vegetable and very, very fiber heavy meal. The rest of it, the peanut butter and the egg, or without the egg, it's just kind of a bit of a carrier or a vehicle for the vegetables. I'm always trying to find recipes that are just vehicles for vegetables, like the egg frittata is a great vehicle for vegetables. It's a couple of eggs, and the rest of it is just full vegetables. I had a patient over at St. Joe's once. I used to work at the cardiac rehab, and she called herself a volume eater. She said, Wendy, I said, I am a volume eater. And so what I did was I put together a bunch of recipes for her that were very, very high fiber, bulky meals, like an omelet. And she reported back to me that she was making these very, very bulky omelets with mushrooms and tomatoes and peppers and onions, and they were falling off the plate. The omelet she made was so big because it was so full of vegetables and spinach, was falling off the plate. And she said, okay, I feel like I'm eating in big volume, so I'm satisfied. I'm not frustrated because I'm eating these tiny little portions. I'm eating huge portions. Her trick was to bulk up everything she ate with lots and lots of vegetables. She bulked soups. She bulked eggs, tuna fish. She bulked chicken salad. And so she kind of came to me thinking, do I have to eat salads all the time? And I get that a lot from people. Oh, does that mean I have to eat salads? I'm like, no. It doesn't mean you have to eat salads, but let's figure out ways to bulk everything we eat with lots and lots of high fiber, high color vegetables. And that may help you feel more satisfied with your meals because you're eating bigger volume. Not to mention, you're going to bring down your triglycerides, bring down your cholesterol because of all of this fiber you're eating. And hopefully in the process, lose some weight because you're not going around hungry all the time, because you've eaten these very, very bulky, nutrient-dense foods that stay with you for a long time. Because when you eat nutritious foods, you don't go around hungry all day. You go around satisfied because you've given your body the fuel it requires to do the work that you ask of it. Let's see. Daughter's favorite meal. This one, is this your daughter's favorite meal, or which one? The bulky omelets or
the noodles?
Oh, ramen. With my son, I'm like, all right, we can do ramen, but we're gonna bulk it up with vegetables, or we're gonna use it as a soup. I've also used these in soups. They make a fantastic, like if you have a chicken stock and some chicken, and then you use this as the noodles, it makes a great chicken noodle soup. Again, bulk it up, celery, onions, carrots, bulk it up. And I always say, all right, we can do ramen, sweetheart, but we're going to bulk it with vegetables. And he's like, fine. He's 14.
That's a great idea.
He's like, fine, mom, fine, whatever. So baby steps with these kids, right? Let's see, any more question? We're getting, let's see, what is the time? What is the time? Okay. Any more questions? this works great with chicken. If your family is not into shrimp, this works great with chicken too. Again, same idea. You cook that meat separately so you don't overcook that chicken, because you don't want that chicken to be dry and rubbery. You want it to retain some of its flavor and juiciness. And so you want to make sure you take it out of the pan when it's looking like the center is just now not pink. Take it out. You know, don't let it sit, because like I said, when you put it back in, everything just continues to cook. Everything just continues to cook. Well, I thank you for coming today and watching me make my lunch and learning about fiber and cardiovascular disease and diabetes. I mean, that's the thing I am most passionate about, is getting people to cook more at home, eat more fiber, and for better cardiovascular outcomes, for better diabetes outcomes, for weight loss. Cooking at home and eating lots and lots of high fiber vegetables is the way forward, in my opinion. As a dietitian, it absolutely is the way forward. Really, I'm afraid we've lost our way, and we're eating a lot of Uber Eats and restaurant food and fast food and very, very low fiber, high fat, high sodium foods that are prepared for us. The more we can get home and do more cooking at home, you will use less fat, less salt, because you just know better. Restaurants use lots and lots of salt, and more than you would probably allow yourself to use at home. So home cooking, I truly believe, is the way forward for, like I said, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and weight loss. Any more questions? Thank you, Wendy. Okay. Well, I think I'll sign off now if no one has any more questions. I appreciate you coming and listening and learning about easy weeknight meals, vegetable bulking, and fiber.